On my desk sits a photograph of my father and me. It was taken 3 years ago at the annual party at Greenwich Country Club. Father has his hand on my shoulder, and Mother is smiling gracefully beside us. Father always used to say, "Family is our greatest treasure." Elizabeth, a new client has arrived. They're looking for property along Long Island Sound. Jane, my secretary's voice brought me back to reality. Soft spring sunlight streams through the glass-walled office of Williams & Associates Real Estate. In this Victorian building facing Greenwich Avenue, Father had built his honest real estate business for over 30 years. "Thank you, I'll be right there. Please prepare a list of properties over $3 million. I adjusted the collar of my Navy Theory pantsuit and gently touched the photograph. It's been 3 years since Father passed away in an accident. Until that day, I thought we were the perfect family. Every Thanksgiving, we'd gather around Mother's homemade turkey and share stories about the year. At Christmas, the three of us would always enjoy dinner at Le Penguin. For Father's birthday, we traditionally had picnics at Binney Park. Mother walking arm in arm with Father under the falling cherry blossoms looked just like young lovers. Those peaceful days came to an abrupt end. I succeeded Father as vice president and lived in our spacious house with Mother. On holidays, we'd enjoy brunch at Sweet Lady Jane's and sometimes attended charity events together. After Father's death, Mother initially immersed herself in her hobby of gardening, but gradually began going out more. The first big change came when Mother joined the tennis club at Greenwich Country Club. "Elizabeth," Jane told me. "I heard you were working late again yesterday. Your father would be worried." Mother visited my office one day, unusually. In her Ralph Lauren tennis wear, she looked somehow younger. Mother was beautiful and the envy of everyone around her. "I'm busy with work. There's a new property assessment, and next week there's the charity auction preparation. Why don't you find something to enjoy besides work? Why not come to the tennis club? We have a new coach. He's wonderful. Everyone's desperate to book his lessons." There was a bounce in Mother's voice. After that, I began hearing more about her tennis lessons, especially about the new coach. Her twice-weekly lessons increased to 3 times, and "lunch with tennis friends" became a regular phrase. "Carol, your form is perfect. Just like a professional." One day, after finishing a meeting with a client, I stopped by the club to pick up Mother and heard that voice. A young, athletic man in a Lacoste polo shirt stood close to Mother, giving careful instruction. Brandon Taylor. He had a background as a retired professional tennis player turned coach. An expensive brand watch gleamed on his arm, and his refined manner fit seamlessly into Greenwich's upper-class society. Then that day came suddenly. "Elizabeth, I'm engaged to Brandon." A large diamond ring sparkled on Mother's finger. I was speechless. Just 3 years after Father's death. Only 3 months of dating. It was all beyond my comprehension. Don't I have the right to be happy? You might not understand, but all my friends my age are supportive. Brandon truly cherishes me. To find such a wonderful connection at my age. There was a strong determination in Mother's voice. It was an expression I'd never seen before. I returned home with heavy steps. The white colonial house Father had chosen used to welcome me with warm lights. But tonight, there was a cold air about it. A Lexus SUV was parked in the driveway. Brandon's car. The Mercedes that father used to drive had already been sold by mother. When I opened the front door, I heard voices from the living room. Mother sat on the pure white sofa, deep in conversation with Brandon. On the antique coffee table in front of them sat a box of wedding cake samples from Sweet Lady Jane's and a bottle of Dom Perignon. Mother wore a new Carolina Herrera dress and had a somewhat happy expression. "Welcome home, Elizabeth." Mother's voice carried a hint of tension. Brandon stood up and turned to me with graceful movements. His Tom Ford suit suited his well-built frame perfectly. "Elizabeth, Carol and I have important matters to discuss tonight. We were just talking about setting a wedding date." His tone was polite but carried something triumphant. I glanced at the spot above the fireplace where father's photograph used to hang. Now an expensive modern art painting hung there, with no trace of father's presence. The living room's atmosphere had changed dramatically over the past month. The British antique furniture father loved had been cleared away one by one, replaced with modern designer pieces. "Mom, where are the photos? And Dad's study furniture?" "I'm starting to redecorate bit by bit. A new life needs a new environment, don't you think?" Brandon agreed. He has an excellent eye. He found some lovely furniture at the interior shop on Greenwich Avenue. With those words, something inside me crumbled decisively. It was as if father's presence was being erased from the house. Marriage after just 3 months. It's too rushed. "Mom, how much do you really know about Brandon?" "Elizabeth." Mother's voice grew stronger. "This is my life. It has nothing to do with you. I'm still young. I have the right to enjoy life." "Nothing to do with me? Dad's been gone barely 3 years. And Brandon is younger than me. Everyone at Greenwich Country Club is gossiping about it. Age and other people's gossip don't matter. Besides, Thomas would want me to be happy. If only that accident hadn't happened." Mother's voice trembled slightly. But Brandon quickly took her hand and smiled gently at her. The moment father's name was mentioned, I couldn't contain my emotions anymore. There were still many questions about the truth of father's death. "Do you really think so? Then why haven't you checked Brandon's background? A professional tennis player? That's strange. There's no record of him in the ATP rankings. According to my research." At that moment, Brandon's expression tensed slightly. But he quickly covered it with a smile. "Carol, I understand your daughter. She's worried about you. But our love is real. I promise to make you happy." Mother seemed completely captivated by those words. Brandon put his arm around Mother's shoulder in a protective gesture. However, his eyes held a calculated coldness. "Mom, please. Just a little more time. At least until you know him better." "Enough." Mother suddenly stood up and went upstairs. I instinctively followed her. When I confronted her in the upstairs hallway, there was an unfamiliar anger burning in her eyes. The setting sun streaming through the hallway window cast a red glow on her anger-filled face. "How long do you plan to interfere in my life? Since your father died, you've been treating me like a child. Even with the company, you make decisions without consulting me. Mom, I'm just worried. Dad would. Before I could finish, Mother threw open the door to my room. The next moment, my clothes and mementos were being thrown into the hallway. The photo frame I made with Mother in kindergarten, the family photo album from high school graduation, the Christmas ornaments we had decorated together until last year. That's enough. This is my house. You have no right to be here anymore. In the confusion, I could only stand there stunned. From downstairs came Brandon's seemingly concerned voice. My belongings continued to be thrown into the hallway. Childhood photo albums, the Cartier watch Father gave me for graduation, the Hermès jewelry box Mother and I bought together in Paris, memories packed into each item were being roughly handled. Take the rest of your belongings within 24 hours. Anything after that will be disposed of. The new life doesn't need old things. Mother coldly declared, grabbing my arm and dragging me to the stairs. The strength in her hand was so strong and cold, I could hardly believe it belonged to the mother who used to embrace me so gently. Standing before me at the entrance, Mother delivered her final words. Brandon watched from behind with a seemingly worried expression. There's no place for you here anymore. The heavy front door closed with a loud bang. The cold spring night air enveloped me. The street lamps of Greenwich Avenue cast long shadows of my bewildered figure. It started to rain. Light raindrops trickled down my cheeks. I couldn't tell anymore whether they were tears or rain. Dad, why has Mom changed so much? You'd be so sad if you could see this. At my feet lay a hastily packed carry-on bag and several mementos. The rain grew stronger, continuing to fall as if washing away my existence. I started my new life in a luxury condominium unit on the top floor of the Delamar Residences, located on a quiet street just off Greenwich Avenue. From the windows, I could see the calm waters of Long Island Sound, with luxury yachts floating in the distance. Miss Williams, Mr. Martin is on the phone. At the intercom message from the concierge, I hurriedly cleared the documents from the living room. Contact from George Martin, Father's old friend and our family lawyer, always carried important meaning. George, what is it? A gentle voice resonated through the receiver. Elizabeth, I'm sorry, but could you come to the office right away? There are important documents that Thomas left with me. Something I need to show you. His voice carried an urgency I'd never heard before. Walking down Greenwich Avenue after the rain, I remembered my last conversation with Father. That day, he had a more serious expression than usual, started to say something, then stopped. The next day, he was gone forever in a single-car accident on the highway. Martin and Associates law office was on the 5th floor of a historic stone building. George, his hair streaked with white, bowed his head and led me to the reception room. Sit down, Elizabeth. I want you to see this. What he pulled out was an old envelope. On the front, in Father's handwriting, was written Final Will and Testament. This, why now? It was Thomas's instruction. With the condition, when Carol decides to marry again. My hands trembled. Had Father foreseen something? The contents of the will were surprising. All shares of Williams and Associates real estate were to be held in trust after Father's death. Mother's lifetime gift was limited to the house and personal assets. Regarding the company shares, it was explicitly stated that they would all be transferred to me when mother's marriage was decided. This will seem as if your father had foreseen something. I sighed deeply at George's words. But why did father? Thomas was a cautious man, especially about the company's future. At that moment, my cell phone rang. It was from a detective acquaintance at the Greenwich Police Department. Miss Williams, there's been progress on that matter. Information about Brandon Taylor, or rather, Stephen Collins. I immediately straightened my back. Stephen Collins. That's his real name. Over the past 3 years, he's committed similar marriage fraud in at least 3 states. The total damages exceed $6 million. However, the evidence isn't decisive enough for prosecution. After hanging up, I explained everything to George. He nodded with a serious expression. I understand. I'll introduce you to a reliable private investigator. He should be able to gather concrete evidence. From that day, our investigation began in earnest. Mother's wedding was approaching in a month. I heard the Delamar Greenwich Harbor's Grand Ballroom had been reserved and invitations sent out. However, none had reached me. Not being invited to the wedding might actually be advantageous. I murmured to father's portrait. Outside the window, the evening sun was setting over Long Island Sound. Over the next 2 weeks, we conducted a thorough investigation. We tracked Brandon's, or rather Stephen's movements one by one. His professional tennis player career was completely fabricated. Instead, we found records of him swindling property from wealthy middle-aged women one after another. Miss Williams, we've gathered crucial evidence. Private investigator James Foster visited with a thick file. Inside were Stephen's criminal records, copies of forged identification documents, and most shocking of all, numerous photographs. This photo was taken in Los Angeles. It's exactly the same pattern with victim Jane Morrison. He approached her as a tennis coach at an upscale club, engaged within 3 months, then disappeared just before the wedding. This was after $2.5 million had been withdrawn from her account. Looking through the file, I formulated a plan. The coolness I inherited from father and my desire to protect mother intersected within me. George, when does the will take effect? From the moment the engagement is officially announced. In other words, the company's control should pass to you immediately. I stood up and walked to the window. The street lamps of Greenwich Avenue were beginning to light up one by one. How many guests at the wedding? Over 200, James answered. Many of Greenwich's notable figures have been invited. I see. In front of everyone, then. Elizabeth, what are you thinking? George asked worriedly. Don't worry. I have a plan. The role father entrusted to me at the end. I'm just fulfilling that. The massive chandelier at the Delamar Greenwich Harbor cast light on the pure white wedding dress. More than 200 of Greenwich's elite had gathered in the grand ballroom. Mother wore an expression overflowing with happiness, gracefully clinging to Brandon's arm. I stood in the shadow of a pillar at the edge of the venue, quietly watching the ceremony proceed. Dressed in a black theory pantsuit, the Cartier watch father gave me gleamed faintly. Everything's ready? George approached from behind. His navy Brooks Brothers suit enhanced his dignified atmosphere. Yes, perfect. I checked the documents in my clutch bag. Father's will and the evidence documents about Stephen Collins were properly stored. The ceremony began. The solemn sound of the pipe organ reverberated off the pure white marble walls. Sunlight streaming through the 20-meter-high stained glass windows adorned the venue like a divine blessing. Stephen was making his final preparations in the waiting room. He didn't seem to have noticed my presence yet. The minister solemnly conducted the ceremony. Mother wore an expression of happiness I had never seen before. Her Carolina Herrera wedding dress enhanced her elegant figure. If anyone has reason why this marriage should not take place, speak now or forever hold your peace. Wait. I emerged from behind the pillar. The venue fell silent. As Mother showed an expression of surprise, I slowly began walking toward the altar. Only the sound of my heels broke the silence. Elizabeth. Why are you? Mother's voice trembled. Brandon tried to maintain surface composure, but clear agitation showed in his eyes. Mom, look at this. I quietly took out the will. This is the final will Father left. It was entrusted to George, to be opened when Mom decided to marry again. The venue buzzed with murmurs. Brandon's expression tensed slightly. And one more thing. Shall we talk about your true identity? Mr. Brandon Taylor, or should I say, Mr. Stephen Collins? At that moment, the blood drained from his face. I'll show everyone your true nature. I signaled toward the screen. Evidence began appearing one after another on the large screen at the front of the venue. Evidence of career fraud. Arrest records. And most shocking, testimonial photos from past marriage fraud victims. A heavy atmosphere filled the elegant ballroom. My voice cut through the silence. Approaching wealthy middle-aged women, posing as a tennis coach, getting engaged within 3 months. This is his fraud pattern. Shut up. Brandon suddenly shouted. His voice was no longer that of a refined gentleman. These are all lies. You're trying to frame me. But at that moment, 3 women entered through the back doors of the venue. Lies, you say? After ruining our lives. It was Mrs. Jane Morrison. The victims I had secretly sent invitations to. The blood drained from Mother's face. Mom, it's okay. You're safe now. I placed my hand on Mother's shoulder. At that moment, police officers entered from the back of the venue. Detective Anderson from Greenwich Police approached with a resolute manner. Brandon tried to escape, but it was futile. He was restrained by police officers and led away in handcuffs through the Delamar's luxurious marble hallway. Mother trembled in my arms. Elizabeth. I'm sorry. It's okay, Mom. It's all over. While the venue was in chaos, my heart felt strangely peaceful. The wind blowing in from Long Island Sound, along with the light streaming through the stained glass, seemed to herald a new beginning. By the window overlooking Greenwich's cityscape, I spoke to Father in my heart. I had now fulfilled Father's wishes. And above all, I had protected Mother. That must have been what Father wanted most. A year later in spring, Greenwich Avenue was in full cherry blossom bloom. In the Williams & Associates real estate office, Mother and I sat facing each other over morning coffee. Elizabeth, could you look at this? It's a new property near Binney Park. Mother elegantly sipped her Starbucks Reserve latte while handing me the property file. She now works in the public relations department of the real estate company. In the company that I became president of, following Father's wishes, she found her new role. It's a good property. The pricing is appropriate too. As I reviewed the file, I reflected on the changes of the past year. After the events at the wedding, Mother was temporarily overwhelmed by a deep sense of loss. However, through that process, she found her true strength. I was wrong back then, Mother said quietly, gazing at the cherry blossoms outside the window. I almost lost everything. The company, family, and most importantly, my bond with you. That's all in the past now, Mom. I gently held her hand. Mother's finger no longer bore that diamond ring. Instead, her wedding ring from Father had returned. But thanks to you, I woke up. That day, when you revealed the truth at the wedding venue, I was so ashamed, but at the same time, I felt deeply relieved. Outside the office, luxury cars passed by, and people enjoyed the spring weather on the street. As usual, there was a line of people enjoying brunch in front of Sweet Lady Jane's. You've grown stronger, Mom. I truly believe this. Mother has now established a support group for marriage fraud victims and regularly gives lectures at Greenwich Country Club. Her experiences seem to resonate with many women. Yes. Back then, I couldn't imagine living with such forward momentum. Mother smiled while adjusting her new Hermes scarf. Her expression no longer showed the vanity or impatience of before. Instead, it held a calm confidence. At that moment, the office television began broadcasting news. The sentence has been finalized in the serial marriage fraud case. The court has sentenced defendant Stephen Collins to 15 years in prison. The defendant had in at least 3 states. Mother let out a deep sigh. I donated all the proceeds from selling that ring to compensate the victims. My recklessness ended up hurting others. But you honestly acknowledged that and took action. That's what matters. On holidays, Mother and I often enjoy brunch on the terrace of the Delamar Hotel overlooking Long Island Sound. What was once an awkward place has now become our precious spot for making memories. In the afternoon, we visited Father's grave. His grave stands in a quiet section of Greenwich Cemetery. The spring sunlight gently illuminated the white marble tombstone. Thomas, you were thinking of us until the very end. Mother laid down flowers and shed tears. The deep love contained in the will. It was his final gift to protect the family. Dad's company is still going strong. The new projects are progressing well too. I smiled at Father's photograph. In the photo, he wore his usual warm smile. As we left the cemetery, dusk was approaching Greenwich. On our way back, Mother suddenly stopped and embraced me. Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm so glad to have you. Those words brought tears to my eyes too. The mother-daughter bond that had nearly broken has now grown stronger than ever before. Let's have pizza delivered to Skyview. I invited Mother. Skyview is the nickname for my luxury condominium. It's become a place where Mother and I often share dinner lately. Oh, that sounds lovely. That Italian pizza you chose is really delicious. We started walking arm in arm. The street lamps along Greenwich Avenue began lighting up one by one. The spring evening breeze swirled cherry blossom petals through the air. It's the beginning of a new life, isn't it? I nodded quietly at Mother's words. Indeed, this is a new beginning. But we've learned that it's not about discarding the old, but about continuing to protect what's precious.